And we're live. Hey, folks, guess what? I'm back. As you heard on our last podcast, we were doing kind of a customizing preview for Celebration 7, and one of our big features was going to be Frank Dorio of Diorama Workshop and the great stuff he has planned. But as you know, it just so happened minutes before the podcast, technology rears its head, and Frank lost total power. Isn't that right, Frank?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know if hydro is considered technology, but I was sending a message, a Facebook message to Jamie, just like not even 5 minutes before we were going to talk with you, and then all of a sudden, all the lights, everything turns off, my computer shuts down, and I'm going like, "What the hell?" Oh, can we say hell? And so
You're fine.
it was like it was really bad timing, and I'm going, and then my phone battery was like at 5%, so I couldn't like chime in through that because it was going to die after not even 2 minutes or anything. So here we are today to try to catch up a little bit on some extra stuff that Jamie didn't have a chance to talk about. So
Right, right.
I'm here at your
Well,
disposal.
awesome. Yeah, first off, thanks for keeping after this. And I remember on the 31st, we had an interesting evening just trying to get everybody on. And then we had the power go out. I figured, you might be running for the hills. No more Google Hangouts. It's a jinx. But anyway, we're going to get you back on here because you did just such a great job with the celebration diorama workshops. But I guess I would be a little remiss, Frank, before we get started. Now, I would think all of our listeners probably know who you are and how you got involved with all this, but let's just say we have a brand new viewer who might not be familiar with you or the diorama workshops or Star Wars celebrations. And can you just give us a little brief glimpse into your history and your past and how you got involved with all this?
Well, I was born in 1964, and oh, not that far back, right? So I guess well, I guess what started the ball, if we want to go in the past a little bit, was I'm old enough to be in the generation, if you want to call it generation, of the lucky kids who were old enough in 1977 to experience Star Wars the first time when it hit the theaters. And as most people, our kids or our friends' kids now, they're so sort of like used to special effects being all the effects that exist now. It's hard for them to understand that back in 77, you had Logan's Run, Planet of the Apes, little movies like that are still cool today, but there was
Preach on.
nothing like Star Wars, So it was when that hit, it was like a huge revelation, and it was just like the most amazing summer for a 13-year-old. And we were lucky that at the time it was before theaters, were more strict on, well, I wouldn't say like tickets, but we would actually be able to the movie would end and we would go hide in the toilet, well, not in the toilet, but in the bathroom. And then
I know what you
when the
mean.
lineup started going in, we came back out, snuck into the lineups, and we would spend like 4 showings in a row just staying there watching the Star Wars movie play on and on. And it was just like a great summer. And that sort of like put a spark in me that I said one day I'd like to work in film special effects, which is most of the story of other people that talk about that also. So um, there's nothing sort of like special in that spark. A lot of people were affected that way in the film, but so that started my love of Star Wars, and then my mom was nice enough to go and buy me some of the toys because I didn't have any money at 13 years old. So you were sort of like hoping that you'd be able to get the collection, and then that started me into the toy collecting. But the actual diorama building and stuff, I didn't really start that until I'd say like 90, between 94 and 99. I think when they re-released, when Hasbro started to re-release the figures, is when the
Mm.
the spark for that started taking over. And then they were
The
just like so
Force
many
Gen.
toys. Then I started displaying them on shelves, and that was nice. But then I wanted to sort of like do little backdrop displays, and then that sort of evolved into miniature sets, and then that evolved into more accurate, like the film sets, and then it fell into sort of like, I guess, the what I do now, which is trying to, as accurately as I can, trying to build, recreations of the film, so that when you take a photo of the scene, that you're not quite sure, is it the film, is it the figures? Because the sculpts of Hasbro and everything that they've been making recently, even if I've kind of stopped collecting in the last couple of years, kind of as compared to the intensity that I did between '99 and 2005, 7, 8, something like that. Um, the sculpts are so amazing that it's sometimes, if you look closely through a camera, it's hard to tell if it's like a real, you know, the real actor or the figure, and
Right.
different things like that.
Mhm.
So yeah. So that's
Awesome.
about how I got into that in the past, and then
All right, so
yeah.
you're liking to build, these, action figure diorama sets, play sets, whatever you want to call them. How did that turn into, I'm going to go to work for Lucasfilm and I'm going to do these diorama workshops?
Well, that's like two different things. Lucasfilm is more like the real life, I guess, if you want to call it, because
Mm-hmm.
I work in film effects. I do compositing, which is the last step in the effects, where you take all the departments, the 3D, the animation, they all give us the footage that they do, and we stick it onto the back plates that were filmed on set, and then we have to blend everything together, and then we have dailies, and then what we show to the director is what you will see on screen. So it's like weeks and weeks of work for like 1 second of film, but it's like so much fun, even though it's very stressful and long hours. But that goes back to when I saw the first Star Wars and I knew I wanted to work in film, and so I studied, in graphic design at the university, and then in the graphic design program we had film classes or animation classes. So then it pushed me back into sort of like my dream of wanting to work in film, and then I worked in TV for doing openings first, then going into commercials, and then finally doing local studios here in Montreal and gaining experience with that, doing like Fantastic Four and Final Destination, and then we did 300 here, and by coincidence, our supervisor for 300 was the brother of the head of the compositing department at ILM. So we got to become friends, and then when he found out that we wanted to go to ILM, so then he was able to get us sort of like a foot open, in the door there. And then
Mm-hmm.
in 2007 was my first experience where I got to go work on Transformers. So that was like pretty intense. It was like
I can
just
imagine.
very. It was very surreal for like a fan of Star Wars and someone who loved ILM, because of Star Wars, as you know, it led to Alien and Blade Runner and then Poltergeist and
Oh, everything.
and Indiana Jones, and all the movies that we grew up with
Right.
existed or were made because of the success of Star Wars, basically. And so when you get to work at ILM and you walk down the hallways, you basically have like 30 years of props and the history of their films there, and you're everywhere you look, it brings back these memories. It's pretty surreal. And like I remember at my station next to me, I had the foam rubber Roger Rabbit that they had used on set to do the lighting and the reference for the actors. There was the building from Die Hard that was like 8 feet tall, which was the model that they used for the filming of that. And so and then one of the most amazing things, just because I'm going off track here, but there was the actual Enterprise from Wrath of Khan was like suspended in one guy's office on the ceiling. It was like 15 or 20 feet long. And it's like, imagine you're working in your office and
Wow.
you have the
Uh,
Enterprise hanging from the ceiling. So it was like really surreal for that. So that was the dream come true in real life, kind of, if you want to say it. And then for the dioramas, for the celebration, how that came about was at the time I was being hosted by Rebel Scum, and then he was getting Philip Wise was getting ready to do the first official picks, and so he was in contact with Mary Franklin, and then because he was hosting my diorama, and then we just blurted out somehow that, oh, wouldn't it be cool to build dioramas at the convention? He threw out like a blurb to her. She liked the idea, and so then we did like a test run, I guess you want to call it, because we were literally like in a small room with there was a sign outside, but unfortunately they hung the sign. It was funny. They hung the sign in the wrong direction of where the people were walking and waiting in line, so they saw the white part. But that's part of the charm of the first one. You're learning from all the experience. So basically, that's how I got involved in that, and then people were peeking the um, inside the doorways, because as they were getting in line to go to the autographs, we were kind of in between, and they would stick their heads in, and then they'd see us building, and they said, "What's that?" So then they'd all come in, and then it became, it kind of grew over. But we only had Celebration 2, if my memory is good, which as I'm getting older, my memory seems to fail a bit more. But I think Celebration 2 was only on 2 days. It was only like the Saturday and the Sunday.
Sounds
I
right.
could be wrong. I could be wrong, but and so we only had 2 days to build, and it was like we did the Moss Eisley was the first choice. It was the easiest choice, and we did with plaster bandages. I had brought all the materials in, and the first day we ran out of material. We had to use newspaper with flour and do papier-mâché instead, and it was just like total chaos. But it was so much fun that they asked us back for Celebration 3, and then we did Death Star on that one. And then that became more popular, and then Celebration 4, which was, for me, the most special one because it was timed with me working at ILM for the first time. So I was in the same building as Mary and Steve Sansweet. So then instead of sending emails to them back and forth for the approval process and all these things, I was actually able to leave my desk when I take a break, take the elevator, go up to their offices, and then show them like, oh, look, here's the prototype for the Ewok Forest. Here's what we did for the hut. So it was a lot of fun for interaction, and that year was pretty special, and we had like a huge, I think that was the first time that we were kind of like in that hangar space, and it was like 60 by 60 feet or something like this, and that was just like a really great experience. And then it's just exploded from there. And the thing is that ever since, like if you've never come to one of our diorama workshops in the Celebration conventions, it's like once the people come to build for the first time, then it's I don't want to boast, but or sound like my ego is getting too big, but it's like they automatically put like a check mark for the next one, saying like, oh, this we have to come back to, so
Hmm.
so that's how it keeps growing and growing. And so like the first, obviously people, not everyone likes to build. Most of the people who are at the convention love to, if they walk, they stop by and then they look and at least take photos and stuff like that. And but once you get, you know, the once you sit down and build for the first time, then you get that itch that you can't not come back to, and so that's kind of like very flattering for us, and a good honor for people to tell us. We've had some people saying that they would actually look and check in the schedule to see if we were coming back, and then if we weren't there, then they wouldn't bother coming to the show. So it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we've kind of like, you know, got ourselves, inside the popularity of the way that the fans enjoyed the experience over there doing this.
Yeah, it would not be a celebration without Frank Dorio and a diorama workshop.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
that
we didn't go
simple.
to the Japan and Europe ones, which would have been fun, but it's a little, further away than just taking. Well, I
Oh,
guess,
of
going
course,
to
yeah.
California, I still have to take a flight and everything like that. But yeah, so maybe if they hold another one, we'll go see. I don't know what their plans are now that Disney's going to release a film every year or so, because it's always I was now that I'm looking back and doing the different preparations on the site and stuff. It's like it's always been like 3 years apart, then 2 years apart, then 3 years apart, then 2 years apart. So now it's like obviously we all know that episode 7 was supposed to come out in May originally, and that's why they were holding the convention,
Right.
in 2 weeks in April, so that
Hmm.
you'd only have a couple of weeks left to go see the film. And now that it was pushed in December, well, they can't. The convention is booked, you know, 2 years, 3 years ahead of time, so they can't just change on the whim because the film has been pushed back. So I don't know if they're gonna, after this one, announce that they're gonna start now doing a yearly thing or not. But anyway, we'll just see. Just see what happens. But it's funny because after every show, it takes so much energy and time to do these that we are always sort of like burnt out. And it's almost like working in film it's kind of the same thing with all the hours and everything. It's like we always say, okay, that's it. It's the last one. It's like I'm done. I'm so tired. I don't have no energy to do this anymore. And then like when you do a film effects, then you'll go see the film, and then the audience reaction will, cheer you on, and you go like, okay, let's do another one, And with the convention, it's kind of the same thing, It's like they announce that they're going to do another convention, then we start talking within the staff, and oh, do we want to do another one? Are we going to go? And then yeah, let's do it. And so, even though we promised like that was the last one, it's like okay, no, let's go again. It's I don't know, like it's almost like a double edge. Like part of you would part of me would like to not do it so that I could actually go and experience a celebration once and for all as a fan and be able to go see
Right.
all of the different events and all the panels and all the stuff like that. But when you're actually one of the people responsible for creating and designing the booth or the space that people are coming to see, we're kind of like, I won't say prisoners because the staff are allowed to go in and out, but it's like we can't see as much as we would
Right.
we would hope because we have to keep preparing and the people are coming and going. So it's kind of like it's really fun to organize, but then on the other hand, it would be fun to not do it so that you'd be able to experience what you experience when you go yourself to see what it looks like.
Right. So I just want to take just a quick trip using Frank's website, dioramaworkshop.com. Tell me if this is the first one. I think I found it. Is that your first
Yes,
one there?
that was
And
the first. That was in Indianapolis in 2002. And that was the size of the little room. It was actually like a double sort of. There was like a pull-out wall, like a door,
mm-hmm.
accordion door that you could pull out, like a wedding banquet kind of thing. And we really had, oh, I don't know, maybe 20 tables, 30 tables. And it was funny because at first, like it opened at 10 o'clock, if I remember. And then it was
Mm-hmm.
11 o'clock and there was no one. And then it was 12 o'clock and there was no one. And then it was 1 o'clock and there was no one. And I'm going, oh my God, it's like going to be a huge disaster. Where is no one's coming? And then all of a sudden
Mm-hmm.
it's like obviously there must have been some panels or something, but then the floodgates started coming in, and then people are saying like, oh, where do I get to build? And oh, it's free and all these things. And even for the first one, Lucasfilm had given us all of the had paid for all the material and stuff like that. So from the very get-go, we've been in the category of for the fans, by the fans kind of thing, and we've always
Right.
been one of the few free activities, because as most people know, when you go to
Mm-hmm.
a convention, it can become very expensive, where you have to,
Oh,
you pay
yes.
your ticket, then you pay for the autograph, then you pay for a $10 hot dog, then you pay for,
Right.
some other
Everything.
things, and so your wallet goes down, relatively quickly, and so people are always like shocked when you go like, oh, what do you mean this is free? So that's kind of cool to be able to offer that, and that's what we built in 2 days, which is pretty awesome when you
Wow.
look at it, even
Oh,
today,
yeah.
for in a, I think not everyone has the space to do it in their basement, but I think for more and more, like when you look at 10 years or plus later, there are some fans now who are able to and have the luxury of, they'll do a dedicated Star Wars toy collecting room or something, and they actually do displays like this, in their
Right.
homes. And at the time, it was very. you know, very limited to like who was actually doing. You had some customizing people, like I remember doing chats with Ferg and stuff like that at the time, and but in dioramas it was like very very few. There was Marcus Gerlach, I think, from Germany, that I remember being in awe of, and then he would see my stuff and be in awe. So it's always funny when you're always impressed by other people's, and because you don't consider your own work that exciting because it's what you see every day on your shelf kind of thing, but
Right.
yeah. So that was the first one, and it was
I
a
want to go to the
lot of
one
fun.
I absolutely loved, the your Celebration 5, and that's where I first. I mean, I met you and Jamie personally while you guys were developing this one,
Hmm.
the Hoth, and you guys were just, I mean, interjecting humor and
Yeah.
just
Yeah. Well, that's
just.
actually the fans that do that. That's the part that's quite
Mhm,
interesting because we'll design basically a sort of like guideline blueprint, where we'll say, okay, you have to build within, 10 inches by 20 inches, but then the rest is like your imagination. Obviously, there's some key things to follow so that it looks like it's from the film or different things like that, but, there's always fans that come up with, different funny ideas like that Family Guy joke that we saw,
mhm.
or different elements where it actually makes us laugh, and because we're so busy in the day, and then we'll go around and we'll say, hey, check this out, look what this person did. And one year there was a kid who actually took one of the wampas and painted it blue,
Mhm.
and made a chocolate chip cookie out of foam core, and it was like the Cookie Monster, the Cookie Hoth monster. It was it was pretty
Mhm.
funny. It was like, it's not something that we would think of telling people, of like, oh, okay, here's, do a Cookie Monster version for us, So this was, a lot of fun, and it was the first one that we used styrofoam, and I could tell you the story, the funny stories with the fumes that we had that
Mhm.
we never thought of, because when you're designing it in my basement, I'm just, I have one sort of like styrofoam melter. I don't know how you call it, the hot wire,
Right.
and so the
Mhm.
fumes are limited to just what I'm doing. And you had a little bit of fumes, but it wasn't like when you have 20 people doing it all together. And I remember going to the washroom one day, and I was passing by the actors where they were signing, and it was, they were like maybe 200, 300 yards away from where we were, and
Behind you,
someone,
right?
I
Mhm.
heard, I heard someone actually say like, "What's that smell?" And I'm going like, "Oh my God, the fumes, the
It's
styrofoam
me.
fumes are coming all the way there." So it's like, it was a funny experience, but that turned out fantastic. And then Hasbro had just
Oh,
made
it's
those
gorgeous.
gigantic. Yeah, they made those gigantic AT-ATs that year, so they were
Right.
able to give us like 7 of them and then all of the figures that were in the trenches were donated by Daryl at Hasbro as well. And I remember, like, for us on the day one when we arrive and we say, okay, look, what did Hasbro give us this year? And you have, like, sent from their warehouses like a big box of just like, you know, i- 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 like 200 rebel troopers or 200 stormtroopers all like bunched together, and you go like, oh my God, like it's just like a kid's dream kind of thing. And then the fun thing about this, as you know, or the people who've, I assume the people who have come before, but is that we don't keep anything. And of course, after the 4 days of the exhibit, everyone has to leave, and so we give away all these toys, every single figure, all the ships, everything. We give them back to the kids as their souvenir of what they did, and they obviously, on top of the toys that were donated either from the figure fund or from Hasbro or some of the things that we brought, they get to bring their build as well. So it's sort of like a win-win situation for everyone, and it really is the kids' expressions and the faces and the thrill that they go. So I know we're scanning through the photos quickly, and the resolution doesn't look quite that good because I think it's the bandwidth. But if people want to go
Right.
and check out all in the events section, we have like the last 13 years of celebrations. The
Right.
only one that I didn't have time to upload yet was Celebration 6 yet, which is a little bit embarrassing because it's been already 3 years. So it's time that I guess I start uploading those photos as soon as we finish the
I think
Celebration
we'll let
7.
you
Yeah.
plan.
This
Yeah, I
one
think we'll let
first.
you plan this one first. Yeah, but before we get to this one and what you're doing, I think folks need to know. I mean, once these big dioramas happen, and once things are taken away and torn down, and the kids get their stuff and have fun, it's not just a memory, because then you take that labor of love and everything that you've learned, and you put it back into your website in the form of resources.
Yeah, well,
Correct?
yeah, you have to go. No, I check in the. You have to go in the workshop section,
Right.
and then
And that's where I'm at
technically,
now.
yeah. So technically, everything that we build at all the celebrations, and then on top of the ones that I build that weren't, that I did for myself for the fun of it, um,
Right.
I just put all the instructions up there so that everyone can keep doing what they did at the celebrations or build at home with their kids, and that's why I like to choose like everyday objects when I design these scenes and the dioramas, because obviously, you know, I have friends at ILM or at model shops or different things. I could be using techniques with molding and fancy things to make it look 100% exactly like the film, but then not everyone has those techniques or the material available at home. So I try to go the other way and make it so that it's more like an activity that's fun for the kids you know, with the parents and different things like that. So this one, for example, it was just, when you start making dioramas, you start looking at everyday objects in a different way when you start looking at them as if it was in the scale of the figure. So this is just paper plates with some foam core and a little bit of paint, and it's like everyone can find this at the dollar store for like under $1.99. So it's like you don't even have to spend a lot of money, and it's sort of like, obviously this is one of the builds and the techniques that I created for one of the more youngling kind of like fans who
Mm-hmm.
come to the websites. There's more
Mm-hmm.
advanced techniques that will make you spend more time, like the Millennium Falcon interior, different things, which I guess would be considered like a 16 and over build if you want to add like
Right.
ages to it or something like this, But it's all very like simple things. Like all the kids like to paint, and all the kids like to put stickers and work with you know the parents obviously can help with hot glue and the cutting for the truly younger people, but the good thing about
Mm-hmm.
when you do like oil drippings like this, or when you do like a lot of the buildings that we do from Tatooine, which is run down buildings and stuff, it's like you don't have to be precise, and you don't have to have like 100% technique. If it looks sort of like imperfect, it actually fits more into the Star Wars universe. Because I remember as a kid, that was kind of like what was fun. I like Star Trek as well, but when you look at the
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek films, especially the early ones with Shatner and Nimoy and all that, it's like the Star Trek universe was always clean. It was always like, if they buffed the floors and all the ships were like polished. And then in the Star Wars universe, it was always very like oiled. The Falcon had like looked like it had really existed. It had oil stains all over it. And then
Right.
apart from the Death Star, which was maybe like a bit more pristine because it was sort of like a base, but it has that lived-in realism that is like a lot of you know fun to try to recreate. And so when you don't have 100% skill levels of customizing, it actually helps, in the look of the matching the film, because the film was done on purpose to look sort of run down and, you know, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to say decrepit because that makes it sound terrible,
Yeah, we
but
know
we
what you
get
mean.
the idea for that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're rebels. They're on the run. They don't have top of the line equipment, that sort of thing.
Yes, exactly.
And so, I mean, you literally have created, I mean, from printable decals to step-by-step instructions to videos to all of this cool stuff. So, when it's like this is just all a huge labor of love, correct?
Yeah, it is. Like it's just like for the fun of it. Like I did it, if
Hmm.
and you have to remember this is like years and years. Like I started say like in 94, which is almost 2004, like almost 20 years ago. And I remember showing my friends, I took pictures like this was like I won't say before the internet existed, but it was at the early stages of the internet. And I would show photos of my dioramas to friends, and they said like you should do a website, you should show these. And then I didn't really want to just, do a site or a blog or something showing my
Hmm.
things because I felt that was a bit like show off kind of, like, oh, look at what I did, kind of thing. And so I said, if I'm going to do that, I might as well make it one step further and include, like you said, if I did decals in Photoshop and they're just sitting on my desktop, so why not put them on the site with the making of steps, and that you can actually print them at home and then reuse them the way that I did and give them a second life, and then have people sort of like enjoy and maybe get into the hobby in that level. But I don't make any profit really of it. It's just the love of like seeing what the figures look like in the sets, and I get as much of a kick looking online to what's being made today, and with a lot of like I'm very jealous of people with 3D printers and stuff, because I think that's one of the big next steps
Right.
that's going to come up. But it's like another thing to learn, and it's like as I get older I get a bit lazier, and it's like every time I'm at my computer and it says iTunes has a new version, I'm going like, not again. Now I have to learn all the new things, and it's like it just drives me nuts. So obviously, but it's a new technology that will really allow you to, because in dioramas when you do a room it's kind of the easy part. What's hard is if you do, like if you pick the cantina for example, if you want to do really nice precision chairs or little tables, it's like to make it look like architecture, or like pieces that you would buy in a store, the way that Hasbro packaged some of them in with the figures. It's harder to recreate that. So if you had a 3D printer, once it gets down to a level that everyone can have it, and then there'd be like an exchange. I think there's already an exchange starting within the community of like people who are doing the 3D versions, and then they just like share them, or different things like that. But
I agree.
yeah, it's all for the love of it, and I think that's what keeps it fun. Because if it was just for money, I think I would have lost interest a long time ago. There's a lot of
Hmm.
people through the years that have like emailed me and saying like, "Oh, can you make me the Millennium Falcon diorama?" And I'm saying like, well, you know how many hours it takes to make
Right.
that? I said all the instructions are there. You can do it yourself.
Make it
Oh, it
yourself,
takes
right?
too much time. And
Hmm.
it's like if I were to charge, I don't know, like $300, $400 to do it, with all the time that it would take me to do it, it would come up to like I'd make $2 an hour or something, and then it wouldn't allow me the time to do my own things, that I would put new stuff online or whatnot, and so I think I would have, gotten bored more quickly of the hobby if I started to look at it in that way, you know. But I think it's more fun to
So,
try to inspire people also.
oh yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, I hate to put you on the spot, but if you had to guess, how many different projects, with based on varying degrees of technical difficulty, from like you said, the kids stuff to the more adult theme stuff, how many projects would you say that you've done step by steps for over the years?
Hmm.
Hundreds?
At least 100 minimum,
Mm-hmm.
and then obviously there's like peaks and valleys. Like when I was doing doing my Yum Yums Universe website, which was the first site that I started. I was doing it like almost every weekend. I was having a lot of fun, and then like sort of like in the last couple of years, for example, when my mom got sick with Alzheimer's and different things, and like
Oh
you sort
yeah,
of like
this is
have
a
to put things
hobby,
on the
real
back
life. Right.
burner, and stuff. Yeah, and then sometimes
Mm-hmm.
real life you go back to work, and then you're spending like doing 18-hour days at work. So then the last thing you want to do on the weekend is spend 80 hours doing a diorama. Even though I
Right.
wish I knew a way how to clone myself or something, because and then the worst part is that I kind of got back into video games also, and so now I have to split my
Uh-oh.
time between making dioramas, video games, work. It's a hard life. All these things.
Yeah, I hear you. All right, so cool
Mm.
stuff. I think it's time we talk Celebration 7. What do you think?
Sure. Yeah, that's coming up in I think 2 weeks now.
All right, what are we
Ugh,
doing?
so stressful. Um, this year we're doing Bespin. I try to, I think that people of my age and my generation who are fans of the original trilogy, I think we tend to lean more towards those films and that we prefer. So I wanted to sort of go think it was a toss up between Coruscant or Bespin, and then I thought, because the episode 7 is coming out with the original cast, let's just go to Bespin instead. And we could always, it'd be fun to do a Clone Wars, but now that Rebels is out, maybe we do a Rebels for the next one or something, or try to incorporate that somehow. But so we decided to do Empire Strikes Back because there's a lot of um, different options that the people will be able to build, and it's very simple because it's mostly just like hallways with some little details. And with the foamy technique that we're doing is basically people could be like adding texture to the walls, and then when they paint it all white, then it'll sort of like hopefully look like the film set. And
Right.
so we decided, okay, and then on top of the hallways that we have, then you also have like the specific, key scenes that were in the film for that planet or for the in the Cloud City, like the carbon freeze, the Ugnaught boiler rooms, the different things like
The
the
dining
the
hall.
the dining room here. We're going to have five. There's five dining rooms that will be uh, allowed to build. We set some like sort of like numbers to try to make it fit within the diorama. Then we're going to have a separate level for just the red zone that you just scrolled by. Then inside the red level, you have the torture room that we just saw. And then you have a third level, which will be below that, which will be well, the boiler room is from the same one as before. But then these ones here with Luke and where he
Third
meets Vader,
level,
those are like
yeah.
those are the third level core um, hallways. So the people will be either doing a hallway, or you'll build the main room with the big window, the bay window, or the little tunnel part, and different things like that. So it's there's a lot of options in order that you can build it. And then if you freeze on this for a second, then
Yeah.
what we decided to do basically is that it's going to be divided into two parts. So the bottom
Hmm.
part, which is it looks like a small fraction, but it's actually stacked up three, so it'll it'll look more impressive because it's 32 feet wide. But all of the green, the little things that look like pluses, that'll be the interior hallways. So if people want to build with the action figures walking around and the different specific rooms like the Ugnaughts and the different things, that'll be on one side of the table. So if you're taking photo ops and you're aiming and you're pointing your camera from the bottom up, you'll be seeing inside the hallways. And then if you do and walk around the diorama to the other side, which looks like little gummy drops or whatever, but those are actually
Right.
skyscrapers that people will be building for the
Ah,
outside.
okay.
And so the outside
Mm.
will also have the landing platforms for like the shuttle and the Slave One and the
There's the
Millennium
Falcon,
Falcon.
yeah.
And Hasbro donated 6, 7 cloud cars for some of the platforms and different things. So if you don't want to build just a hallway, which is basically a floor and some two walls, then you can build a skyscraper, which would be the height that you want, and then you can like cut out some windows. You can like do the interior if you want to do furniture and little things like that. The detail is up to the imagination of the visitors, obviously. But so
Hmm.
we're counting on there's about like 250 or so buildings. Oh, actually, there's a number next to on the left, but you're going to have a bunch of
Oh
buildings, like
yeah.
hundreds of buildings on the outside, and then you're going to have hundreds of hallways on the inside. So the person that will have a choice already there, what do I want to do? And then once they do that, well, then they can do the various, if a small kid wants to do just a simple building, they can do a small tower. If someone wants to do one of the giant buildings that is the size of I always call it the hotel room, but I don't know if I don't think it's a hotel room per se, where Han and Leia,
The guest room, right?
that guest quarters kind of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
there's those big yellow circles. Those are the ones that'll be
Right.
planned for that. So we spread it out a little bit so that people from all ages will have at least something to do, and that's what's fun about the
Mm-hmm.
workshop. Also, with the years, we kind of like figured out what people like and don't like, and the thing is that some people like to come in for a 2-hour build, 3-hour build, and then leave. And then a lot of people like to spend the 4 days with us. And so they
Mm-hmm.
prefer like a bigger challenge and different things like that. And another thing that's fun for the workshops that I don't know if people realize, which is kind of cool, is that we're kind of like a sort of like a meeting ground of the fans, kind of in the sense that you can come in and build for about 2 hours, and then you'll say like, oh, I have a panel, or I want to hear Carrie Fisher do a Q&A or something like this. And so you can actually set aside your build, go do what you want to see, and when that's done, then you come back to the workshop and then you pick up from where you left off. So that's why there's a lot of like coming and going, and we get to become friends with a lot of the people, the fans who arrive, and then that's what makes it even more special. Like at the following conventions, like we were talking about, where once you come to build, you kind of have the itch to want to come back, do it again the next time, and so we'll re-see people that we've seen 3 years ago, and it almost seems that we haven't seen them in a week. It's kind of with the staff the same thing. I don't know if I'm more excited about seeing the staff again, which are my good friends now, or to actually do the build. It's kind of like a 50-50 toss-up kind of thing.
Good
But it's all
times.
exciting.
Mm.
It's like it's stressful because there's 2 weeks left, but at the same time, it's like very exciting to be going back and seeing it. How it's all going to come together.
Oh, I hear you. Well, hey, Frank says it's a lot of stress. Let's help him not be as stressed. Frank, what can we do to help your diorama workshop out?
Well, every time now that we have about 1 week left, I think before post office would probably not deliver the toys in time, but we have a figure
Right.
fund that we create, and the people, if you have like leftover figures, or sometimes like there's kids bought figures when they were younger, and you don't realize that 20 years has passed, and now these 16-year-old kids are now like 30 years old, and maybe they don't want their toys anymore. So you can donate the toys that are just lying around. Where obviously we'd prefer Best Bin toys so that you can help in the display. But what we do is that the toys that are given to us from the figure fund are used to put into the display, but at the same time they're given as thank you gifts to all of the kids when they leave on the Sunday. So I'd say the cutoff I had put the April 10th, so that it would be like close enough, to leave you a week for the post office to deliver it. So they could send it to our 6318 Camino Marinero in San Clemente address. The address is on the dioramaworkshop.com website, and it's the same one that you're seeing there.
Yeah, and we'll
There's
definitely link
PayPal.
it in the show notes
Yeah,
too.
yeah, there's PayPal donations, but even at this point, because PayPal also has delivery, so I'm trying to avoid. I'd say don't use that option at this point. But obviously, the third one, we've had a lot of podcasters and websites actually bring us the toys in person, because like if you know that you're coming to Celebration Anaheim, so why are you going to waste $5 or more to put it in a box and have it shipped to us, and risk maybe getting lost in the post office or whatever? So the people can actually bring us even a Ziploc, and even if it's one figure, that's great. It's like it's just the thought
Hmm.
that counts, and the Star Wars fans have always been like really, really generous with us in the past, and we've already received about a little bit over 100 figures so far. So that makes 100 kids happy, and so that's exciting for us. And then at the same time, when you're doing a display that's at home, that's maybe like the size of your desktop, like 30 by 30 inches or something, you could fit 12 figures and it looks really nice. But when you have 30 feet of diorama to fill,
Oh yeah.
if you only have 10 figures, then it looks like everyone went away on vacation somewhere. Or, so with the more that we have, the better, obviously. And then we don't keep any of these donations ourselves. We love to look at them if it's toys that we don't have in our collections or whatnot. Last year, well, I always say last year, but at the C5 that you were showing for the Hoth, someone actually
Hmm.
donated one of the vintage Rebel transport ships, and I had never even seen one in person. So we're going like, wow, someone gave us that. And so on the Sunday, it was raffled off to one of the kids. And I think the person who won was like 7 or 8. So I don't even think he realizes, you know, the luck that he had in winning this item. To him, it's just like, oh, it looks cool, but he doesn't know that it's something that,
Right.
you know, all the adults would be trying to like, slip him
I'd
some
like to
money at a
have one.
convention or something. So obviously, yeah, I think that if you just come to the convention, even if you don't want to build, if you have your extra figures with you, or even you could even go to the dealer room and pick up, a Nugnaught or two, or some Cloud car pilots, or even if it's just like junk, it could be like broken figures that we'll put in the Ugnaught boiler room. You have to decorate sort of like the sides to make it look like, it's a big melting pot of all kinds of junk. So, and if you bring us mint on cards, please don't try to spend, buying versions that a dealer will sell you for $60 or something because it's mint, because we're going to open it to put it on the display. So, from the loose figure bins, we've even gone, when we did the Tatooine, we needed some last minute, Tatooine people, and we went to the dealer's room, and you just rummage through. They always have these big sort of like Tupperware bins of figures, like $1 a piece or $2 a piece. So it's like you can get some really good deals that will look nice in the display, and a kid will still be happy. He doesn't care if it's mint on card or whatever. So it's like
Right.
yeah, that's pretty much for the donation part. And then I'm trying to think of, obviously we're giving away some nice things also to
Oh
people this
yeah,
year
let's
as
try
a
that.
kind of as a thank you, for, because if you're going to give us, we have to give you a little bit something back at the same time. So we have Hasbro. Let's see. I can't really tease. I guess I could say it's a tease because it's Hasbro, but I put that up quickly on my website, but I have to do a proper version later in the week or whatnot. But if we the I'll get back to Hasbro after, but for our own Diorama Workshop swag kind of thing, we're giving iron-on patches that we designed for. We have our crew shirts to identify us this year, and I kind of the resolution is not that good if you try to zoom in, but the patch is kind of like a wink to the patch that they wear in the crew in the movie Alien, and so. I wanted to go in that direction with that. So we're going to be giving 25 in the morning and then 25 at 2 p.m. So 50 a day that we're going to be handing out to people. You could stick it and iron on it on a baseball cap or on a T-shirt or wherever that you want to. The Cloud City T-shirts, obviously, we're doing raffles like we do every year. This time, because it's the 13th year, I decided to go with 13 a day. It's like it's no-brainer. It's the easiest decision.
Hmm.
And what we did was one of our staffers, his brother, did an illustration for us, and I think his name is Wilro, the ice cream guy. Is that what the
Yeah,
character's name
Wilbur
is?
Hood. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
So obviously he's like in 1 second of the film, and you see him running. When they're escaping Cloud City, you see him walk by, and he's become like sort of a fan favorite because it looks like he's carrying an ice cream container. So we actually designed the shirt to look like a 70s retro Star Wars shirt, but at the same time, it's hard to see in the picture, but he's scooping ice cream, and the Bespin is actually a sundae, and so it's like a humor kind of like T-shirt at the same time. It looks great. And the last thing that we're giving away for the Diorama Workshop swag is a custom pin that we made. And for the first time, I think Jamie talked about it with you last week, is that we're doing, Jamie's doing master classes for customizing, and I'm just going to step in with these like little 20-minute technique classes with Mark Padden, who's a staffer that's been with us since Celebration 3, and we're going to be doing sort of like how to advanced cutting techniques and stuff that are going to be useful for the techniques that you're going to be using in the Bespin, so it's going to help everyone. So these are kind of our gold stars, if you want, where the people who sign up will get a pin as a thank you after they leave the workshop booth. So that's what we're giving away on our end. Now Hasbro is giving away some really cool stuff, but I'm not allowed to technically say what it is. I could say that if I was a
Oh
kid,
man.
I'd be very happy. I know they told me you have to. They said you have to keep at least some surprises for when the people arrive, and I said, okay, well that's fine. So you only have
Mm.
2 weeks of torture to wait to see what it'll be like, and so that's exciting. So we have Hasbro giveaways. We have giveaways that we created with our own money, and so that's going to be like a sort of like an interaction during the days. What we have this year also is we have like a registration area to come in, kind of, and when the people come in, we're going to give them like a concert wristband kind of thing, and then we have 4 colors for each day, and so the wristbands will be sort of like become a all access entrance and exit of the workshop to help you like know where to. It'll be your kind of your raffle ticket at the same time, and act as your access pass and different things like this. And I don't know if we mentioned it or not, but the thing that's really cool about partnering with Hasbro this year for the first time is that at first I thought, okay, we'll just exchange T-shirts, or we'll do some kind of a pairing so that people who go to their booth and then come to our booth, like the certs commercials, like you'd be able to have your two complete sets or something. And they said, no, we want to go bigger than that. We want to merge the 2 booths to make a gigantic diorama experience. So that just blew my mind when I heard that. So now that they're next to us, we're actually as opposed to the past years where the final assembly of the diorama was inside our own booth. Now the assembly is going to be inside the Hasbro booth. So the people are going to be building on our side and then walking across the little 10-foot sort of like I guess hallway or gap or whatever, and then bring the displays on their side. And so you're going to be seeing, as you walk up and down the main street every day, the Hoth, not the Hoth. My God, I'm going back. You got me back to 2010 there.
I'm sorry. I love. Yeah, I'm sorry. Bespin. We're in
We're going
Bespin.
the Cloud City. Yeah. So the Cloud City is going to be growing as you pass by every day. So and then even during the same day, as you finish a build, we bring it right away over there. So it's kind of like, you know, uh, if I use the example of like a Lego, everyone is building kind of like a Lego brick, and then we take their bricks and then we put all the bricks together to make the gigantic diorama that you see like
It's like a big
on the display.
puzzle.
A big puzzle, exactly. And even for us, even when you design it and in the basement, you're just designing it with the 6, 7 pieces to make sure that everything fits together, because the last thing you want is to arrive over there and then you go like, oh, I measured wrong and I have an inch too small or something, and then it becomes a whole disaster. But you don't really see in the planning stages what 32, in your mind you say, okay, it's going to be 32 feet long, but it's like when you see it, it's actually, you know mind blowing, and and even for us, like you sort of like it makes you smile. And at the end of the day, when we actually start placing some of the figures into the displays, like we actually have these big grins on our faces because we're like, look how cool this what the fans did, at the end of one day. It's really amazing to think that we don't even bring anything from day one. It's like it goes from nothing to like completed diorama, all with
Oh
the
man.
imagination of the kids and stuff like that. And it's just a great experience. It's if the people have a chance to come to Anaheim for the celebration, then obviously Hasbro will give us a bit more exposure because the people will be wanting to go and check out the Black Series and all the different toys that they'll have on display, and then they'll see our diorama at the same time. So it might, well, I don't want to say that like it sounds like a ego or something, but I was going to say, I'd find it hard to believe that someone going to Celebration now wouldn't know that the diorama exists, kind of thing, because we've been doing it for 13 years. So, excuse me. So, yeah, I think that if they have a chance to come and check it out, I think that they'll be in for a real treat this year. But I say that every
Well,
year. I'm kind of biased.
well, I mean, just speaking from my own experience, it is definitely one of the coolest things for a celebration experience. And, I think Frank has probably understated the sheer size and immensity of this thing. And, I hate to take Frank back to Hoth again because we're talking about, Cloud City investment, but I can just remember, like, from day one, where that Hoth build was just, tables and, a little bit of white stuff here and there, and then to see that come together the final day, and like you guys were rigging up a camera to this thing was so huge, and the camera was going down the string, and it looked like you were making a snow speeder run on a walker, and I was like, this is just fun, period.
Yeah, it is about a lot about fun and stuff like that. And I think that's the funny part is that you mentioned it. We said about, but you just reset it. Is that because it goes from 0 to 100, right? During the 4 days. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's kind of what's scaring Hasbro, just like a tiny, tiny bit, because they go, okay, well at 10 o'clock, the first day when people come and they're going to see that our booth is like completely empty. They're going to say, "What's going on here?" And I go, "Well, that's kind of what happens at the beginning. You can't have anything at the beginning because there's nothing built, you know. But as it
Right.
grows, then people will see like, oh, that's why all that space was empty, and then, it's sort of like, it'll be a neat experience. I'm just looking forward to seeing how the partnership is going to gel
Hasbro, it will
together
be
this year.
fine. Hasbro, don't
Yes.
worry. You'll be glad when it's done. It'll look awesome.
Hmm.
Mm,
Yeah,
just great stuff.
I don't think they're, I think I know that they're really excited to be working with us, and I know that they have an idea in their mind, but a lot of the people that I'm talking with it's their first celebration, so they've never
Hmm.
like experienced it hand on. So I think a few of them might be like, have a little mind explosion of like, awesome.
Right. Definitely a good way to put it. That's the way I was, and that was my must-see every day. I didn't care if I went and saw Mark Hamill or George Lucas. I was like, "What's new at the Diorama Workshop? They have any more walkers? They have any more hangers? They have any more trenches?"
Yeah.
It really became my favorite part of the whole celebration experience. So, Frank, from one fan speaking for all the other fans out there, I don't know that you probably are ever going to receive enough thanks for doing what you do, but thank you very much for giving kids and even adults just a special celebration experience, and just and keeping those resources, and letting us build this stuff. I mean, for almost 20 years now. Thank you.
I know. We're so old, eh? When you think of it, it's like mentally we're
But
still like,
just
I
kids,
was going to
right?
say 20 years old, but maybe 13 still. But yeah, obviously it's, and it's all about paying forward in my mind. So as long as I'm having fun building it, and as long as I'm having fun sharing it, and other people building it at home, I'll probably be doing this for another couple of, I don't know, I say decade, but it depends on how much toys still keep coming out. But I guess like we'll always have some kind of movie you know that's in our favorite
Oh, you got to
you
keep
know
going.
scenes and stuff like that. So yeah,
Hmm. Yeah,
no
you'll have
stopping
new
yet.
movies now.
I know. I'm really looking forward to seeing what they come up with. I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we'll see that trailer that everyone's talking about at the show, and then,
Right.
but then it'll be hard to concentrate on doing the workshop if they show the trailer on day one, because that's all everyone will be talking about, and we'll all be stuck on
You,
our iPad rewatching it like in a loop. And people will be
you'll
going,
have to
"Can
have
we
a
come and
small
build?"
chunk. Yeah, you'll have to have a
Yeah,
small chunk for the trailer, a little bit of chunk there on the end of Bestman. But now,
yeah,
hey Frank,
yeah. But
if people want to get a hold of you or look at your stuff and find the resources, how can they do that?
the easiest is on the website, obviously, and it's easy. Nyum Nyum was so hard to. First of all, it was hard to pronounce, and I had spelt it wrong because the actual joke of it was like I liked Wicket and I liked the sound that he made when he went yep 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 yep, but it's YUB. Like he actually says yub yub, that I've learned many many years after. So my name would have been Yub Yub Universe instead of Yub Yub, and then people thought it was Nayub Nayub, or it was Nyen Nyam, and it was just a whole mess kind of thing. And then I just went with my real name; it was easier. So yeah, so it's dioramaworkshop.com, which is kind of like the Nyam Nyam's Universe V version 2, I guess, and you can go there. I have a Twitter account that I set up where sometimes it's easier to post celebration preview pictures there before doing it online. So if you want to see really before anywhere else online, the Twitter account would be the best place to find me. And then there's Facebook, obviously, also. But all those links are found on dioramaworkshop.com. And obviously, I'm trying to do as many previews before the convention so that you could get an idea of what to expect when you're going to go build. But once we come back from the show, everything that was at the show will be eventually online. So that includes, tons of pictures of what the kids built, but also all of the blueprints, all of the stickers, all of the videos. And so people who were not able to join us in person in Anaheim will still be able to participate and build it at home on a smaller scale, but you'll still be able to, you know, have the fun of displaying your figures in the end with that. So,
Uh,
dioramaworkshop.com.
that's awesome. And like I said, Frank, I appreciate you giving us a bit of your holiday weekend to give us a preview of the Diorama Workshop. And I definitely hope folks you watch this give a shout out, send in a donation, share it on the various social platforms that you frequent. Let's put the word out there. Let's make this the best celebration experience Frank has had to date. And it's just a good thing. It's helping continue the hobby for our kids and for new fans and for the new folks that are going to come on when the new movies come out. I mean, let's keep this thing going and help Frank spread the good news, so to speak. So I'm Tamer at ImperialShipyards.net, and you can pretty much get me anywhere on those social platforms, Facebook, ISWAD forums, and you can definitely expect us to follow Frank and Diorama Workshop closely, before, during, after the event, years down the road. I'm hoping I can twist Frank's arm and get him back to kind of share his thoughts after we give him a few weeks or maybe even a month to calm down after the celebration experience and just see how things went and hear how he feels and just let him share his memories. Does that sound okay, Frank?
Yeah, it sounds good. And I can't say full details, but I have been told technically there might be a way. A little birdie said that uh, for the first time ever, there might be live cameras for people to check us
Ooh,
out on StarWars.com. But you didn't hear that officially from me. So let's just say that
oh,
it might.
gotcha, gotcha. So we might unofficially, be figuring that stuff out and letting you know as well.
Yeah,
So
and then I'll come talk to you about it after the show, and we'll do
great,
a wrap up after for sure. It's always fun
sounds
to
good.
talk with you, and I appreciate everything that you've done, to promote what we do and the site and everything, and the help that you do with the, at the forums and everything. And so it's like it's a two-way street. It's like always you
Yeah,
always have a better feeling about yourself also when you're sharing and doing things, and you know, if you can just inspire that one new person to get into the
right.
hobby and start doing a diorama, then it makes all the effort of all the stuff
It's
that you do well worth it.
You're right. It's worth it,
It
and
sounds corny, but it's true.
maybe I'll be corny then. Yeah, I think good spreads good. All right. Hey, you'll have me and Dan back on a future episode of Custom Action Figure News. So from the Tamer and Frank from Diorama Workshop, we'll see you again real soon. May the force be with you. Good night, folks.
Bye-bye. Bye.